And I remember hearing about it and just feeling such despair. I walked into my dorm room and took my book bag and hurled it across the room. It felt like everything had been shattered. Like we would never be able to put the pieces together again.
Hands toward justice that energized and gave direction to the service of ordinary people from all walks of life. Equally important and not too often overlooked, Martin Luther King Jr. encouraged all peoples to live up to their purpose and potential by uniting and taking action to make this world a better place in which to live. That action, he believed, would be a living manifestation of their faith. He is a position safe. Expediency asks the question, is a position politic? Vanity asks the question, is a position popular? But that something called conscience asks, is a position right? I believe there comes a time when we must take positions because our consciences tell us they're right, even when we aren't certain of the outcome. I believe that the time, as Victor Hugo said, is always right to do that which is right. Now, there's something in America today that is not right. To the contrary, the American people sense that something is gone terribly wrong. They instinctively understand that, but not only that, let freedom ring from all over America and throughout.
Last year that you believe in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and you've actually felt the presence of the Holy Spirit on many occasions. Share some of those occasions with us.
You know, I have, ever since I've been a little girl, felt the presence of God in my life. And it's been a gift of grace that has, for me, been incredibly sustaining. But really, ever since I was a child, I have felt the enveloping support and love of God. And I have had the experiences on many, many occasions where I felt like the Holy Spirit was there with me as I made a journey. It didn't have to be a hard time. You know, it could be taking a walk in the woods. It could be watching a sunset. Well, you know, I am someone who has talked a lot about my life. You know more about my life than you know about nearly anybody else's, about, 60 books worth, some of which are, frankly, a little bit off base. But I don't think that I could have made my life's journey without being anchored in God's grace and without having that, sense of forgiveness and unconditional love. And I'm not going to point to one or another matter. I mean, some of my struggles and challenges have been extremely public. And I've talked about how I have been both guided and supported through those, trying to find my own way through. Because for me, my faith has given me the confidence to make decisions that were right for me, whether anybody else agreed with me or not. And it is just such a part of who I am and what I have lived through for so many years, that trying to pull out and say, oh, I remember I was sitting right there when I felt, God's love embrace me, would be, I think, trivializing what has been an extraordinary sense of support and possibility that I have had with me my entire life.
The World Federalist Association, or WFA, is one of the largest organizations that openly promote world government. Periodically, the WFA extends a Global Governance Award to a prominent individual pushing for the same goal. Former CBS anchorman Walter Cronkite was among the recipients of the WFA award.
Thank you very much. Today we must develop federal structures on a global level to deal with world problems. We need a system of enforceable world law, a democratic federal world government.
In a closed-circuit hookup, Hillary Clinton congratulated Cronkite.
For decades you told us the way it is. But tonight we honor you for fighting for the way it could be.
In 1993, the WFA honored an editor for Time magazine for an essay he had written entitled The Birth of the Global Nation.
Nationhood as we know it will be obsolete. All states will recognize a single global authority.
After receiving the award, the editor, Strobe Talbot, was appointed Deputy Secretary of State in the Clinton administration. In February of 2000, the New York Times allowed the WFA a full-page ad to spread its globalist propaganda.
I want to thank Stan Lee and Peter Paul.
If I could turn back time, if I could find a way, I'd take back those words that...
It was an extraordinary array of the leadership of the Democratic Party and A-list Hollywood.
We'd like to dedicate this to Mrs. Clinton tonight. God bless. Someday, when my life has passed me by, I lay around and wonder why you were always there for me.
I'm a guy who's dealt with superheroes most of my life.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can, spins a web any size.
He created Spider-Man, X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and the Incredible Hulk.
The new purchasers of Marvel fired Stan. We decided to start our own company, starting with one employee and $500,000 that I put together.
Peter set me free.
Stan Lee, some big announcement he's making about the internet.
Within a year, we had a market cap in excess of $300 million. I decided, well, maybe I should reach out to Bill Clinton to work with us and be a rainmaker for the company when he left the White House.
My first entrepreneurial venture was setting up a comic book stand and used comic books. I had 2 Foot Lockers full of them.
I could accomplish my objective by becoming a major contributor to the party.
I don't know about you, but I've been to 1 or 2 of these events.
It's critical that we all chip in and contribute whatever we can.
We want to thank you, and we're going to be there for you.
That's great.
It's great to see you.
Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
This has nothing to do with campaign contributions at all.
How are you?
Nice to see you again.
I'm very glad to see you again.
And I also want to thank Stan and Joan and Peter and Andrea for their support.
Someone might ask you after this event why you would come to an event to support someone running for the Senate in New York.
My interest in supporting Hillary Clinton was specifically to hire Bill Clinton.
I'm thrilled. You got me all jazzed up.
And they concocted a big fundraiser for Hillary.
This fundraiser in August 2000 in Los Angeles raised more than $1 million for then Senate candidate Hillary Clinton.
I want to thank Stan Lee and Peter Paul.
I had accomplished hiring a president of the United States to work with me when he left the White House. The Washington Post published the first article
of Peter Paul having a felony record from 2 decades previous.
And that I didn't contribute any money to her campaign. And she vowed she wouldn't take any money from me.
And her representatives, in making these false allegations, were lying on her behalf.
The Clintons now had to pretend that they did not even know who Peter Paul was.
Did you recall Mr. Paul? Do you recall working with him at all?
A few days later, on August 18th, they each sent me handwritten letters which professed our undying friendship, their undying gratitude. A week after that, I got some signed photographs from the White House, from Bill, from the event. A full 2 weeks from the original story in which Hillary vowed never to take money from me, her finance director faxed me a request for $100,000. My reaction to that was, well, why would I send any more money when you vowed not to take any more money from me?
This appears that it was planned all along that they were going to deceive Peter Paul, steal his Japanese business partner, and do damage to his company. Tendo Oto had promised to infuse Stanley Media with $5 million in November of 2000. Bill Clinton's business partner, Jim Levin, had flown to Japan, stolen Tendo Oto as a business partner,